Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our discussion about Power Book 2, Season 2, Episode 4. And this is an episode that I think blows a lot of the show wide open. I think it gives us answers to questions that I don't know if we even really had, but that's fine. It at least gives us something more to talk about and be surprised about.
I feel like a lot of us had questions about Mecca and why he's around and what is going on. Is it just that he's in love with Monet? Is there something else that's going on? And we got some answers on that.
We have a lot to talk about here, but of course, before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button because every week we are here talking about Power Book 2 Ghost, and it seems like we have a lot that is going to be coming up. We don't want you guys, of course, to miss any of that.
Also, follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. We had a pretty fun, sort of Christmassy weekend. This felt like the beginning of Christmas for me and my family. My background, I'm Guyanese Caribbean. We like to make at Christmas time black cake. And for me, whenever that's made, that feels like it is the time. So I've got some pictures up there on that. I tried to make my grandma's recipe, but she used to make black cakes that would like feed the whole family, all the friends, the Guyanese community. I tried to like half and even less than that recipe, and I ended up making 6 cakes just the same. So if for the rest of the season we come on here and maybe we're a little like, woo, we ended up having a lot of black cake, and there's a lot of booze in that for those of you who don't know.
You say this like it's a problem. Like, this is not, 6 cakes is not a problem. This is a blessing.
It is so much butter, so much sugar, so much booze. I had my fruit soaking since September, but I still pulled a grandpa on it, my grandpa Compton. Whenever we would make a black cake, this is a quick side story here. He would always be the guy who walks around and is like, there's not enough booze in here. There's not enough rum in here. There's not enough port in here. And he would just continuously pour booze into these cakes for the whole time we were making these like 40 cakes. I Grandpa Compton the situation this weekend, so it's extra boozy.
Once again,
Miss you, Grandpa.
no problem with any of this, but no, I miss him too. Now, this episode, okay, we got to start with the big family reveal here that
Yep.
it turns out that Zeke is not Monet's nephew. Zeke is Monet and Mecca's son.
Yeah, it's a huge reveal for many reasons. I mean, the biggest thing is why would Monet not have Zeke as her son? What was the decision making behind pretending to be his aunt? What is it? Like, this episode opened up so many questions.
It also created a lot of confusion, I think, in our heads of trying to figure out, okay, what's the timeline on certain events? How did all of this work? Now, we went back and looked at the very first episode of the series, and in that, Zeke notes to Tariq that he grew up in the South. And from what, at least the information that's sort of out there, none of this is confirmed, mind you. I feel like what happened here is that Zeke was Monet's first kid, and then rather than taking care of Zeke herself, she sent Zeke somewhere else to grow up. He comes back around high school, but that still doesn't really answer the question as to why she sent him away or why she's acting like this or has acted like this for the bulk of the series.
Yeah, I think that if she's going to decide to pretend not to be his mother, there's got to be a really serious, heavy reason behind that. Whether it is that she just thinks that she could have not given him the life that she wanted to, whether it's complications of relationships, what's going on with Mecca. We don't know exactly the timeline with Lorenzo and everything that was going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing too. Like, Zeke has to be the oldest.
Yeah.
Like, he has to be. And I mean, they've sort of touched on little bits of that on the show. Because if Kane, say, is the oldest, then, like, wouldn't he notice that his mom was pregnant and then all of a sudden there's no kid there? I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be that way. But if it is that way, then, like, how old really is Zeke?
That this is where we get into another interesting little side tangent here about NBA prospects. Listen, I am a big basketball fan. Go Raptors. And typically,
I am not, but go Raptors. I'm from Toronto.
yeah, all right. Now, see, usually if you're going to be like a big ticket NBA prospect and they are selling Zeke like that, I don't think they're like going so far as to be like he's the next LeBron James or anything, but they're acting like he is a pretty big deal in the sporting world. But if that's the case, and it seems like all of Monet's other kids that they are all adults, that would put Zeke kind of around, I don't know, 23, 24, somewhere around that. Usually big NBA prospects now are like 19 or 20 or somewhere like that. I mean, there was one guy drafted, I think this past time that was like 23 or 24, but it's really, really rare. And if you're drafted that old, you never get this sort of hype. You instead get all this rub of, oh, you're too old. You're already, it's like, Power Universe. Are you guys not basketball fans? Like, I'm a basketball fan. Did you figure out this later? I am confused about a lot of things when it comes to sort of Zeke's age and also him being so eager to go and like, well, not, well, eager to kind of stay in school and hone his craft, whereas Monet is like pushing him to be in the draft. If he's that old, wouldn't he want to be in the draft at that point?
Yeah, like that is the thing about the ages. Like it feels a bit like then that Monet had kids back to back to back to back to back. Because I mean, Diana's talking about going to school and being in university. So she's got to be like, what, 17, 18? I mean, she's ready to go to college. So how old are all these kids? I mean, Zeke really shouldn't be like 23 or 24. I would think that I've thought all this time that he's probably like 20 or maybe 21.
Yeah, all of this is confusing. I mean, I'm gonna just take power at its word here. I'm just gonna try to steamroll past it, but I do have a lot of different questions. I think obviously the most important thing with Zeke right now, in addition to his age, is sort of just the simple fact that he is extremely, extremely screwed when it comes to his future.
Oh my goodness. Things just they're not going well for Zeke. Zeke is kind of not he's just getting out in front of himself and he's getting himself into some kind of crappy situations. And then also we have these situations that are kind of being forced on him that he's not really able to deal with, like this interview that he thought he was going on to talk about basketball and all the stuff that's kind of with his career and going on. He knew he was going to have to talk a little bit about what's going on with this murder, but he did not expect what happened and ended up storming off this interview.
I have a serious bone to pick here with Monet, with the entire Tejada family. And don't get me wrong, I know it sounds like I'm complaining a lot. I enjoyed this episode greatly.
Oh, yeah, I really like this
Yeah.
episode. I think it's exactly what you said at the beginning of this. This episode kind of blew the doors off. There's a whole
Yeah.
bunch of really good storylines and mysteries that are coming up right now.
But Monet, you, this is an interview you're sending Zeke on with Jamel Hill, obviously a famous person, but beyond all that, you're sending him on a televised interview with a sports journalist whose job has journalist in the name. Did you really think that she was going to follow every single one of those questions when in, her mind, and I'm not just, throwing Jamel out here, like almost any like big ticket reporter, if they have someone like Zeke who is like the subject of a big public interest story, don't you think they're gonna bend the rules? Because guess what? They're on live TV. You can't stop them at that point.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it that I'm kind of surprised that Monet and the whole team didn't really prepare him for to kind of be like, it is live TV. They're not going to necessarily just throw all these softballs at you. They may tell you that, but you need to have him prepared. This is sort of my complaint about what Monet and how she's been handling Zeke this whole time is she's not really letting him in on a lot of what's going on. So he's left in the dark a lot. He's just kind of flying by the seat of his pants. And without that information, it makes it a lot harder for him to be able to deal with this stuff when it pops off. And she should have known that there was a possibility that it could. She knows he handed the card to the detective. She knows that that is out there and that could be asked about. So why not prepare Zeke. Zeke is really just left to the wind. I feel really bad for him.
Zeke had my favorite moment of the whole episode, though. I'm not gonna lie. His response when he first tries to act like Ramirez is, a fan who was at the game, and then Jamel Hill is like, we actually, we checked on a lot of this, and we didn't see him there. Or at first, even when he tries to act like he doesn't know Ramirez, and then she sort of calls him out on it, and then he's just like, oh, Ramirez. She just said that, Zeke. Like, you just said that. It was so funny and unintentionally funny. But Zeke, man, you need some acting lesson. Not the actor. Zeke, the character, needs some acting lessons to get through these moments better.
Or he needs to be told what to say and information and really prepped. I mean, Monet may not have prepped him, but Davis, why didn't you prep him? I mean, you're there as well, setting this all up in the first place. Guys, you guys know that Zeke needs to be sort of handheld through some of this stuff. He doesn't have experience with it. He's being told that he's this main suspect of a murder that he did not commit. And he's just an innocent guy that just doesn't know what is going on, doesn't know how to handle it. You really have to prepare him.
You mentioned Davis in there, and let's get into everything with him, because he is really the person who gets the ball rolling, being like, okay, I'll represent Zeke, but I need $1 million, and I need it within a span of a few days. And that sets in, this chain of events of everybody doing what they can to get this money. We obviously know Mecca eventually just ends up fronting it, but this really produces just so much chaos across the entire family.
Oh yeah, starting with the fact that Diana stole from her mother all that money to give to Davis again, who is really making out on this show.
Davis is the big winner here. I think we can all agree about that.
Yeah, so Diana has given all that money to Davis to try to help get her dad out of jail, also behind Monet's back. Diana's really taking on a lot of stuff behind her, but stealing that money?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm sure she figured that she could find a way to put it back, but I don't know how.
It's all setting up the incredibly awkward plus possibly hilarious situation of Lorenzo, who's gonna get out of prison at some point this season, and then he's just gonna wander on back home. He's gonna open the door, and there's Mecca's gonna be standing there, and we don't know how much Lorenzo and Mecca really know about each other, but I'm assuming at least a little bit, and that's gonna be fun.
Unless Monet actually just makes a choice. And we saw at the end of this episode where, Mecca called it out and was like, listen, I know that Zeke is my son. I know that he's your son. I know that he's our son. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help him and to help basically all your kids, the whole family. Let's all be a family. And we knew that he was circling around Monet, that this is clearly the love of his life. I don't think that there's another reason for this. Except now there's also Zeke. And again, it's a family. It's people that he loves. He wants that family. And she's in a strange spot right now because she thinks that Lorenzo is never going to get out. We've seen her say she's really tired of this life where she's going to see him for visits, and that's the whole life that she's got with him. And then here comes Mecca, father of one of her children, all this money, all this attention, all this love, able to actually go out with him. She may just make the decision and divorce Lorenzo. Wow, that'd be so messy. Oh my god.
Oh boy. Then you're gonna have Lorenzo walking out of jail after Diana fronts all that money.
Yeah, I know.
All of this is gonna be fun, and now you're adding to the mix as well Kane, who is working with Mecca, and what Kane gets this mission from Mecca in this episode that this is Kane's way of making this money, and your guy basically goes on all these little different heist missions throughout this episode with Brayden.
Okay, so this relationship between Kane and Brayden is really developing into something that I'm thoroughly enjoying watching the back and forth between them. There feels like there's just this real natural chemistry friendship between these two on screen that I'm assuming is because maybe they're friends outside of it as
Yeah.
well. There's just something that's so natural between them, and the back and forth and the smiles and the laughs and the intensity. And we know that Kane originally decided to start sort of circling Brayden here as bringing him over to get to Tariq. And we did see some of that. But this whole like last scene where Kane asked Brayden to come with him to get Ramirez's body, there felt like there was a bit of a shift there, that it wasn't just Kane's using Brayden. It kind of felt like Kane needs Brayden, and that friendship is developing in a way that I think Kane didn't expect.
I like this storyline. Like, this is probably one of my favorite storylines in this whole episode, just because I feel like you sort of said it. They have an interesting sort of natural connection, and I think a lot of it is both of them are kind of thought of as the outsider within their own family. You know, Kane kind of feels like he's always getting the short end of the stick. You know, Brayden, so much attention is on terrible Trace and all of that sort of nonsense, and I think they understand each other. Clearly, Brayden is someone who is very eager to be about this life. I mean, this guy is going in and robbing a jewelry store. He didn't have any sort of face mask on. He didn't have any. He's just like there. It's really a big risk here, Brayden.
And he's lying to Tariq about it. And I know that he did try to sort of talk to Tariq about it in the last episode, that he wants to do more. He does want to sort of work with Kane in a way, and Tariq just said no and just shut the door on it. But I mean, Brayden is his own guy, but he doesn't need to lie to Tariq about it. I think that whether or not Tariq likes it or not, that's Tariq's problem.
Yeah.
But Brayden doesn't need to take that path, but he's taking that path. So that is also going to end up getting really messy. On top of all of this,
Yes.
we have this scene with Kane and Monet that was really heartbreaking to me as I was watching it, where Zeke has found himself in a lot of trouble with this Ramirez thing, like a lot of trouble. So Monet has now come to talk to Kane about bringing up Ramirez's body so that it can be found to prove that this is not connected to Zeke. It is a huge ask, because Kane even says, like, what if this blows back on me? Like, I'm the person that actually killed him. And Monet's like, it doesn't matter. This is your fault anyways, so bring out the body. I was like, oh my God, like that is a real tough ask. And it was a hard scene to watch.
This was a very, very painful exchange. And yet, the whole time, as they are, you know, as we're seeing Kane and Brayden actually move this body and set everything up, you know what I'm thinking? Streets need a body. That's what happened here.
No.
They needed to be able to get this body out there so that all of a sudden they could start to piece together the clues, do anything to make Zeke appear innocent. And of course, here is Kane, who is like, oh, I need to have a backup plan here just in case things go even more south.
Yep, and we already know that there is a jealousy there with Tariq, because even in that scene with Monet, where she was so pissed off because he ended up telling her the truth about everything that happened with Jabari, she slaps him, and he really holds her feet to the fire to say, you better have this same energy with Tariq, because he is the reason that we are all in this spot in the first place. But Monet's kind of like, I'll deal with that when I deal with that. And so I understand where Kane is coming from when he decides to plant this badge, Ramirez's badge, in Tariq's dorm.
I've already seen on social media, there's a little bit of an interesting debate about, did this episode not have enough Tariq, given that Tariq is technically the lead character, and there's all this stuff that's kind of happening around him. But I think it was nice to sort of get perspective on all these other people and also understand that Kane, he may be a little reckless. He may be a little bit violent at times, but he has his own agenda, and I think he does think things through. And I like that this show isn't making everybody around Tariq out to be idiots. Instead, it's we're going to make Tariq's life really, really hard and see how he can get out of this situation now.
Well, the only person that I feel like is kind of not an idiot, but I mean, I was kind of surprised by Lauren's choice in this. I mean, she got caught with someone else's drugs in that dorm, and that's not hers. And she knows that it's not hers.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised she actually just didn't go to her parents and was like, this is happening to me. This isn't mine. Drug test me. Drug
Lauren,
test me. Like, I know that I didn't take them. I know that these aren't mine. Like, let's get some proof here. Why not just, it feels like it's been built up that she has a good enough relationship with her parents that she can go to them and tell them what is going on. And they are in a position of enough power to be able to deal with this professor.
listen, Lauren may be my least favorite character in the show. It's just, I don't relate to her.
She's like wired to go like for Tariq because a small bag of drugs was found in her room that doesn't belong to her. She's such a smart person and they've really put it out on this show that she's well educated,
Yeah.
in a good spot. Like, why wouldn't she have gone to somebody like her family and been like, help?
I don't know. Like, if the only thing I can kind of think of, and it still doesn't make a lot of sense, is that she would be like, oh, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna be the hero. And it's like, you don't need to do all this. Like, none of this is completely necessary. Focus on yourself.
Hero against Tariq? Like,
Yeah.
it's such a weird spot. She spent 2 years thirsting after Tariq to have one conversation with Carrie, and now she's got this wire on her. This story needs to go.
Yeah. Get rid of this.
I'm really sorry, Lauren. It is just not working for me. Give me more of Diana and Effie's relationship and friendship that's growing over there. I like that way better.
I like that way better. Heck, I will even settle for give us more meetings involving like the dean and Rashad Tate, where Tate's being all smarmy, and then you have Simon Stern, who I'm pretty sure is like the big bad of the entire Power universe at this point, basically telling Whitman, I own the police. I own you. You do what I want.
Bizarre. Oh my god.
Like, Simon Stern shows up like 3 times a season, flexes all over everybody, and then leaves, and then they have to pick up the wreckage.
Okay, let's talk about Rashad's brother.
Come on. Oh,
my god, he's so great. I was really... I didn't know he was coming on to the show. I don't always look at all the spoilers and everything that's out there, but this was such a nice surprise.
I love how they sort of set it up too, where he's now you're working as an investigator. Now you finally get yourself in sort of the muck of everything, and everybody is just sort of like, this wouldn't have to do with your brother. And he's just sort of like, bah.
Coincidence. Like, okay.
Yeah, we all just want the same thing. Do you all want the same thing? But no, I think this is just going to be fun of having 2 Tates, each with their own Tate agenda. I think, Kamal, listen, the bar is set really high on how terrible a person within the Tate family can be. Automatically, Kamal, you are the family favorite.
Yes.
All you got to do is just sort of handle this. But no, I'm really interested in sort of the legal side of things at this point. You've got my guy Cooper Sachs, who is at this point, digging through Jenny's bag while she's in the other room, calling Kamal Tate.
Nobody is shocked by this.
Like, listen,
Cooper Sachs is such a slime.
He is the best slime. He is my favorite slime ball, and this entire storyline is so slimy, where he and Davis are just trying to get the upper hand on everyone and figure out the case first. Ultimately, because they want all the money. Cooper Sachs wants to end this season in like the biggest, fanciest car he possibly can.
Oh my goodness, those cars.
Okay.
Everybody having midlife crisis on the show.
Power Book 2, Midlife Crisis, featuring Cooper Sachs. No, I think this episode did a really good job of setting up a lot of big stuff that's coming down the line. I think some of the logistical stuff is a little bit confusing and doesn't always make sense, but hey.
We gotta wait, we're not that deep into the season yet. There's still a lot to come. I feel like they gave us just enough to chew on, and we will get some answers about what is going on with Monet and Mecha and that timeline. I know they're going to give it to us.
All right, well, let us know what you guys thought about Power Book 2, Season 2, Episode 4. What do you think about the big Monet reveal? Give us your thoughts, your theories. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and also check out our other coverage of Dexter New Blood, Succession, big finale later today, and we will see you here next time.